Alright folks, today I'm going to take you through the sudden ending of The Walking Dead comics and the events surrounding it. To all my non-comic readers, I think you're going to be pretty surprised right off the bat on how this version of the story differs from the show. For example, Lance Hornsby is an extremely minor character in the comics, whereas in the show version, he is somewhat the main antagonist of the Commonwealth arc. Some characters that met their end in the TV series may still be alive and vice versa. I won't be taking you through the history of every change in this video as it would get a little off track, but maybe after you'll be inspired to pick up the books for yourself and see how we got to this point. If you're enjoying this type of content, be sure to hit that like button and drop a sub if you're feeling generous. It's 2019 and the Walking Dead comics are at the climax of the Commonwealth arc. You see, the Commonwealth, a city with a population of over 50,000, was going through a time of change, as the city's governor, Pamela Milton, had been overthrown and arrested for perpetuating an unfair class system designed to keep her at the top, in what was seen as a revolution. The story being told somehow felt rushed and too slow at the same time, and by issue 190, most people were ready to move on to the next big thing. That is, until the true purpose of the story arc was revealed in issue 191. Rick Grimes had spoken to the people of the Commonwealth and prevented what could have been a bloody war at Pamela's orders, fearing Rick was there to take her place as governor. But instead, he would inspire the citizens of the Commonwealth to take control of their own government and appoint their leaders democratically, putting an end to Pamela's unfair treatment of the lower class. And for the first time since the trials began, people within the city, regardless of social status, were working on an even playing field, coming together to clean up after the chaos. Things felt different. Dare I say, happy? There was a wave of optimism in the air as Rick had brought the population together as one. The dead could be overcome, we knew that. But this was the first time a conflict was solved through words. And now, Rick was being heard by thousands. Courtesy of what he learned in the Whisperer story arc, he had become the leader he needed to be to actually start bringing the world back. And for the first time in a very long time, Rick actually felt safe. So safe that he would forget to lock his hotel door. Sebastian Milton, the troubled son of Pamela, couldn't handle their fall in public status and blamed Rick for what he and his mother caused. He was terrible to everyone around him and treated the lower class as just that. And it all came down to his mother never telling him no. So, without thinking, or even letting him speak, Sebastian would gun Rick Grimes down in his bed, leaving him alone to bleed out and turn. The next morning, his son Carl would wake up with a smile on his face, expecting to get breakfast with his father before starting work on cleaning up the Commonwealth. But arriving at his hotel, Carl immediately knew something was wrong when he saw Rick's door cracked open. His worst childhood fear had been realized, as without even thinking, he would put his reanimated father down without hesitation, just instinct. It would almost immediately be discovered Sebastian was the perpetrator of the murder, and promptly was arrested by Officer Mercer, sentenced to life in prison. Carl vowed to always return so he could watch Sebastian rot away in a cell, showing us the lawful nature of Rick will live on through him, but also the darker side influenced by his friendship with Negan. The newly inspired morale across the Commonwealth was quickly dampened as news spread, but instead of simply reverting back to the way things were in the wake of Rick's death, the people of the Commonwealth would continue to carry the respect they had for him and what he did to inspire change throughout the city by assuring Pamela would never take office again. And maybe, begin to reshape the world into something better than it was. But for others, like Carl, it was going to be a long journey of grieving. So Rick Grimes was dead. Personally, I think it's a great ending for his character, as the only way to kill someone like Rick would be to do it when his guard is completely down. And the work he put in to change the ways of the Commonwealth inspired so much positive morale in him, he lost sight at what kept him alive all those years. Caution. Robert Kirkman had always said in interviews he wouldn't survive the whole series, and it appeared he was going to stay true to that. You see, the comics would give us previews of covers 3 issues in advance, as a way to get us speculating and hyped up. Issue 193's cover showed a single farmhouse, almost giving us the feel of a new start, like we're going to be moving away from the story we've been following so far for a while. The leading theory at the time, Negan was going to take the reins of the comic's new protagonist following his exile from Alexandria, and begin a new journey. It would make sense as issue 192 marked the end of Compendium 4, a collection of 48 issues from the series. So if Kirkman was going to switch directions, this would be the most opportune time. Issue 194 showed an image of a Rick Grimes-esque character named Officer Kapoor, resembling an old world sheriff. And finally, issue 195 showed us a shadowy figure, seemingly Negan, bent over, mortally wounded, with the tagline, "The Swordsman Strikes." At this point, speculations were off the charts. Was Negan taking the reins as the series' new protagonist, just to be killed off a few issues later? Who are these new characters we're meeting? What direction is the story heading in? It was clear Kirkman was gearing up for something big for the 200-issue milestone. Oh, what's this? A tweet from Robert Kirkman 2 days before the release of issue 193. Details about this issue will more than likely start to leak today. It's a big issue in more ways than one. Hashtag understatement of the year. Wow, okay, that's interesting. I mean, we kind of figured that would be the case if it's a new beginning. You have been warned.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
And then, it started. The Walking Dead comic to end with issue 193. The Walking Dead ends this week with 193. The Walking Dead officially ending after final issue this week. Ending this week after issue 193. Issue 193. Kirkman had pulled the biggest fast one of all time, soliciting fake promotional covers for future issues that did not exist. 2 days before the issue hit shelves, the ending letter from Kirkman was leaked from the issue, revealing the surprise finale before its intended release. It was chaos. Kirkman said the comic would go on for at least 300 issues. We didn't even make it to 200. This is blasphemy. This is... Okay, not really. Let's take a step back here. Kirkman did say he wanted to run the series for 300 issues, but reading his end letter, he shines a lot of light around this statement. I knew the end, but I didn't know where it would fall. I figured somewhere past issue 300, as I've said publicly. But when I saw the cover to 142, it dawned on me. Oh shit, we're already at the fair. The Commonwealth is just around the corner, and oh man, there's no way I'm going to make it to issue 300. It was the first time I realized I just didn't have enough story worked out to get there. I didn't know exactly how long we'd fight the Whisperers, or how long we'd be spending in the Commonwealth before Rick would bring about his own demise. But I knew the whole run wouldn't be another 150 issues. So Kirkman makes it clear. His intentions were never to lie or anything, he just overshot how much story he planned out. Sure, he could have kept going, but at that point, he had been working on The Walking Dead for 15 years. And he had already extended the series way past his original planned ending when the group arrived at Alexandria. So it's really hard to blame him for wanting to finally put a nice bow tie on the series with a finale. Even if he said 2 years prior he had absolutely no intention of ending the comic, but I digress. The reason for the fake covers, Kirkman believed the heart of the series lied in the shock of turning the page and seeing one of your favorite characters die. So his belief, there was no better way for The Walking Dead to go out than with a shocking, sudden end. I can see how many would dislike this approach to ending the series, but it made for one hell of a surprise, I'll give him that. So with the history lesson out of the way, what does the final issue of The Walking Dead comic look like? The issue picks up at the same farmhouse from the cover, and immediately we are thrown for a huge shock as grown adult Carl Grimes slices a walker in half using Michonne's katana. Frantically running out of the house, his wife, Sophia, is shocked to see a walker, as we're told it's been years since one has wandered into the safe zone. It's clear a lot has changed since the last issue, and from what we can tell, 20 to 25 years have passed since the death of Rick Grimes. In that time, Carl and Sophia had a daughter, naming her Andrea after Carl's adopted mother. She was everything to Carl, and her safety was his biggest priority, so this kind of negligence would not fly. The loose walker makes Carl come to the conclusion Herschel Green, Sophia's brother, must be in town, as Herschel runs a traveling circus showing off live walkers. Well, not live, but you know what I mean. The Commonwealth had expanded and secured most of the east coast of America from what we can tell, or at least a big chunk of it. So walkers were now an extremely rare sight, also making them valuable in the eyes of the New World government. To Carl, this was a disrespectful practice, and was not what his father died for. So in the night, he would massacre the remaining walkers in the traveling circus, before fleeing to resume his job as a courier with Lydia, his now ex-girlfriend. Here we are shown the true growth the Commonwealth has seen as Carl travels as far as the middle of the country to deliver packages for Eugene, who has been working for years to connect the rail line to those of the Western Alliance, in hopes of connecting the East to the West for the first time since the trials began. The Western Alliance isn't expanded upon past this one line, but we can assume they are an establishment as large as the Commonwealth, showing us truly how much the world has started to recover. However, Carl was still going to have to face the consequences of his actions when he returned. Outraged, Herschel would go to the local law enforcement, and Carl would be forced to stand trial for destroying Herschel's property. Rick Grimes' influence had carried on throughout the years, being the inspiration for the Commonwealth's success, so his son's standing trial for killing what was once seen as their biggest obstacle would not fly for many, like the president of the Commonwealth, Maggie Green, Herschel's own mother, who decides this is an issue that needs to be taken to the highest form of court. Traveling to Commonwealth 1, which we can assume is the original city from the Commonwealth arc, Carl and Herschel would present their cases to the Honorable Judge Hawthorne, aka Michonne, who perhaps has come further than anyone else in the series. With her absolute authority, Michonne outlaws the use of walkers for entertainment throughout the Commonwealth, clearing Carl of all charges. Herschel is outraged at Carl for this, as he claims being around the dead was the only way he could feel close to his long-deceased father. Sure, bud. Herschel was another Sebastian Milton in the making, so being told no was probably the best thing that could have happened to him. On the courthouse steps, the shadow of Rick's statue would cast down onto Carl and Sophia. Although the story at this point has been embellished, he was proud of the legacy Rick left behind. Carl would return to the farmhouse with his family with a feeling of accomplishment, as he would not let anything jeopardize what his father built for him, Andrea, and all the generations of children to come after. Getting Andrea ready for bed, he would read her the story of the great Rick Grimes and his fight to overcome the trials. Her grandfather, who inspired the broken people of the Commonwealth to unify once again. And that is the ending of The Walking Dead comics, folks. The story told is absolutely beautiful, and Carl reading Rick's story to his daughter is a great way to wrap up such an overall bleak series. But I can absolutely understand if you guys don't feel the same way. Like I said at the beginning, the Commonwealth story was rushed and also felt too slow at the same time. Although the final issue is triple the size as a normal one, it could have been told through 10 issues easy. And I think it all comes down to the compendiums. Ending where he did evened out the issue distribution between all 4 of them, leaving 48 issues in each compendium, with the last one containing the final issue as a type of bonus. My opinion, Kirkman had too much story for 193 issues, but not nearly enough to fill another compendium, so he had to make the choice to trim it, or keep going despite running out of well thought out stories to tell. If I had to pick one out of the options, I would personally pick the one we got, but overall, I think the ending is a lot more controversial than Kirkman intended. A few extra issues were definitely needed to flesh out Sebastian and develop his hatred towards Rick, but I think what we got works just fine as an ending. You may be thinking to yourself, why is Rick praised so much when most of the work was really done either before he arrived at the Commonwealth or after his death? Well, that's a thought some others in-universe share as well, such as Laura, who remembers some of the horrible things Rick did in his journey to becoming the respected leader he died as. And she chooses to work far away from civility on the rails to escape it. It's realistic to me that the story of Rick would be embellished over the years. He would be used as a martyr for rebuilding society, which, if it helped bring the world back, what's the harm of building a statue, am I right? But as you can see, this version of the ending is far different than the one we got in the show. There's no CRM or France, no Daryl, and Carol's already dead at this point. And obviously, Rick and Carl are present in the story arc. Negan is exiled from Alexandria all the way back in issue 175, and besides a small cameo in a panel during the ending montage, he's never really seen again. Jesus and Aaron survive and grow old together, and most everyone else lives the rest of their lives in peace. The only character to be confirmed dead post issue 192 is Stephanie, Eugene's wife, who died of natural causes. Sebastian would spend the rest of his days in a cell just as Carl promised, with his mother Pamela sticking by his side for the remainder of her days. A very fitting end for the two. Getting to see all the characters we know and love grow old is such a rewarding experience for longtime viewers. Real quick before I wrap up, I just wanted to mention these fake covers that were made to fake us out are meant to actually tell the story of adult Carl's death, with a cover made up for issue 196 showing Andrea and Sophia at his grave. It's not canon or anything, I just thought it was kind of cool and wanted to include it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you enjoy the ending of the comics? Or do you think it was too rushed and could have been done better? I love hearing your guys' opinions. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, and if you're feeling generous, drop a sub as well. Thanks for watching, folks.